Okay. As you see, the last three chapters in book one are very important because they sum up the writer's philosophy. And you all know that the writer wants to say that these systems applied in schools are fruitless. They will not yield any kind of positive results. And the writer highlights that on his words. I will prove to you the fruitfulness of these, or fruitlessness actually, of these systems applied in England. So he started preparing to end book one in chapter 14 when he talked about the great manufacturer. We dealt with that earlier. He wanted to show the irony of this system. Normally, a great manufacturer is somebody who produces good products, perfect products. But here, there is an ironic situation, like Mr. Gradgrind, the system, the policy of the state at that time are not good manufacturers. Actually, they are producing very bad products, and the result is what would happen to Louisa and Tom. So chapter 14 gave us an idea. After we left Tom and Louisa as very little young people, we knew that Louisa is getting old. Now she is a young lady and marriageable. Tom is old enough after finishing his education and after learning about the facts. Now he is going to move to the Bounderby Bank. And the writer never fails to highlight the kind of intimate or close relationship between Louisa and Tom. Here he came to an end with chapter 14, which he prepared for the next chapter for some ideas. Because in chapter 14 the writer showed that Gradgrind wants to talk with Louisa concerning something sensitive, something important. And the title of chapter came to be Father and Daughter. What we understand from this title is that father and daughter is supposed to talk about a close relationship between a man and his daughter, a father and his daughter. But actually we find somehow a weak relationship between those two because of the prevalence of the educational system, or the system of facts by which Gradgrind governed his own family and the society he was in control of. So the writer in chapter 15, actually Gradgrind in chapter 15 started his plan to prepare Louisa for the marriage proposal. As you remember, in the previous chapter he told her, I would like to have a word with you tomorrow morning, please remind me. And now it seems that this kind of word is, my dear Louisa, I prepared you last night to give me your serious attention in the conversation we are now going to have together. And here he shot his own words. Louisa, my dear, you are the subject of a proposal of marriage that has been made to me. A proposal of marriage, my dear, to which she returned without any visible emotion whatever. Being a member of the facts family, of course she is not supposed to give any emotional reaction. I hear you, father, I am attending, I assure you. Then you can discuss whatever you like. What you say, Louisa, is perfectly reasonable. I have undertaken then to let you know that here is the climax of this chapter. That Bounderby has informed me he has long watched your progress with particular interest and pleasure, and has long hoped that the time might ultimately arrive when he should offer you his hand in marriage. Another ironic situation here. Normally, as we know, even in our culture, the hand of the woman is requested, actually, not the reverse, not the opposite, that the man offers his hand. But you might think of what makes the writer use these words. Actually, here he highlights the the little value of women at that society, the weak role women play at that society. They are just like commodity, وكأنها سلعة to be employed with by a father, by a brother, by somebody. And the privilege is for the man. The man is supposed to be the person who offers his hand in this situation. So the writer wants to let us know that, look, this was the case, or this was the status of women at that time, which he tries to call attention in order to improve and enhance or change something towards this issue. So here, as if the writer shows that Bounderby is something very important, that he shows his hand to Louisa and يعني for marriage. Father, something important happens, something that takes place outside the discourse of facts, outside the scope of the fact system. Do you think I love Mr. Bounderby? Mr. Gradgrind was extremely discomfited by this question. Well, my child, I really cannot take upon myself to say. And then she continues, do you ask me to love Mr. Bounderby? No, I ask nothing. She still pursued. Does Mr. Bounderby ask me to love him? My dear Louisa, it is difficult to answer your questions. You know, these words related to love, to fancy, to imagine, are all related to the school of fancy, the other side, which Mr. Gradgrind fought very early in the beginning of the novel. If you remember, Sissy من قالت راح أشوف هذه الصور and then I would fancy, and he said no, we are not supposed to use these words in our world. We are here working according to a principle, 2 and 2 are 4, and that's all, no more, no less. Don't busy yourself with issues, facts, and emotions or passions. So here the writer highlights this issue to give us an idea that, look, this is how Gradgrind brought up his family, that they were not supposed to experience or to feel any kind of love. That's why it is not in their own dictionary. What would you advise me to use in its stead, instead of love, father? ما يمكن أستخدم بدل love اللي I am asking about. Why, said Gradgrind, I would advise you to consider this question as you have been accustomed to consider every other question. Just like I taught you about facts, just like a tangible fact, and deal with it regardless, with love, with passion, with feelings. Now, what are the facts of this case? You are, we will say in round numbers, 20 years of age. Again, he dealt with this very sensitive issue with perspective of facts. You are 20 years of age. Mr. Bounderby is, we will say, in round numbers 50. خلينا نقول يعني تقريبا 50. So there is a gap of only 30 years. Something not very huge according to Bounderby's philosophy. What do you recommend? I should substitute for the term I just used now, اللي هو love, misplaced expression. It appears to me that nothing can be a plainer. ماكو شيء أسهل من هذا الموضوع. Confirming only yes or no towards this issue. مثل قضية الفاكتس اللي كان يتعامل وياها إيه أو لا. 2 زائد 2 4. That's all. So don't think, don't imagine and fancy towards these issues. And then you see, shall I marry him? Precisely. It is satisfactory to me as your father, my dear Louisa, to know that you do not come to the consideration of that question with the previous habits of mind and habits of life. I now leave you to judge. And as if he is giving her some space to think. Removing her eyes from him, she sat so long, looking silently towards the town. Are you consulting the chimneys of the Cock Town? works, Louisa, there seems to be nothing there but languid and monotonous smoke. The Industrial Revolution effect is highlighted here, just like every other place. And then I wish to do the little I can and the little I am fit for. Mr. Gradgrind seemed at lost because of Louisa's words. And Mr. Bounderby, she went on a study straightway without regarding that, asked me to marry him, and then she started thinking about considering the proposal of the marriage. Here you see how he describes her as a child, and then he tries to sell her off as if he is selling her to Bounderby. It's some ironic situation. Father, scornfully she replies, what other proposal? And then when asked to consider the proposal, and he asked her if she has any other secret proposals. You have never entertained in secret any other proposals? ما حد حاكي وياك ما عندش تواصل ويا any person? And then she shot her own important words. She said, and this, it's a little bit important, I'm trying to make it what other proposal can have been made to me? Whom have I seen? أنا منو شايفة؟ أنا وين طالعة؟ أنا وين رايحة? According to her perspective. What are my heart's experiences? شنو experiences اللي أخذتها while I was young? I have no experiences, because she used to live in her house, and she goes to school and then back to house, and there is no other a loophole for her life. You correct me justly, I merely wished to discharge my duty. What do I know, Father, in her quiet manner, of tastes and fancies, aspirations, affections? كل هاي الأشياء, as you know, these are exclusions. These were not allowed in the school of facts. So she doesn't have an experience about these things. And then she nails Mr. Gradgrind, خلينا نقول تضربه بسمار. You have been so careful of me. تعاملت وياي بطريقة جدا حادة بعناية. I've never had a child heart. ما كان عندها قلب طفولي. She did not experience any childhood. You have trained me so well that I never dreamed a child's dream. You have dealt so wisely with me. Father, from my cradle to this hour that I never had a child's belief. So she was brought up according to a kind of philosophy that she is not to live her life as a child, and she missed that. إذا تذكرون how she used to speak with Sissy about the experiences of childhood, how Sissy dealt with her father, showed the passion, the love, the stories they used to share, etc. So finally in this chapter we have Sissy's reaction towards, Louisa actually agreed and asked her father to tell Mr. Bounderby that she has agreed to this proposal. And then you see Sissy in this quotation, when Gradgrind had presented Bounderby, showed Louisa as Mrs. Bounderby, قال لهم هاي السيدة Bounderby. Sissy had suddenly turned her head, looked in wonder, in pity, in sorrow, in doubt, in a multitude of emotions towards Louisa. And because of this, Louisa took a distance and kept herself away from Sissy. So this chapter highlights some certain points. Gradgrind is preparing his daughter for the marriage proposal, and then he asked her permission, and then Louisa accepted the proposal. طبعا هذا has been foreshadowed by Mrs. Sparsit in 2 or 3 chapters, whenever Bounderby speaks about Louisa, where Sparsit asks him or shows him that Louisa is just as his young daughter, and then he tries to change the subject. Louisa, as if interrogating her father about the experiences of love, of childhood experiences and other things. As you see, Mr. Gradgrind was a little bit discomforted, uncomfortable towards Louise's answers, and then she accepted the proposal, and how Sissy replied to this proposal. These are the main points we can have in this chapter. I will go on, and we will finalize book 1 in the next chapter.